Hello guys, this is a review of the movie Handsome Devil, released sometime in 2016 or 2017 I think. It stars Fionn, Nicholas, and Andrew. First two last names are very difficult for me to pronounce, I'm sorry. I had already reviewed this movie last year, but I deleted it and I wanted to give it a second try because I felt like my review just wasn't up to par with the amazingness of this film. And let's be honest, my reviews never are. They never do the films justice. I say it time and time again. But I feel like even up to my standards, I could do a much better job this time around. So let's get started. This movie follows the story of the two protagonists, Ned and Conor. The movie starts with Ned complaining to his dad and his stepmom that he doesn't want to go to boarding school. They're driving him there. And the reason why he doesn't want to go there is because he's an outsider. He doesn't like rugby. I mean, he doesn't have a problem with the sport itself, but he feels, as he narrates the whole film, he feels like if you don't love it with a passion, then you instantly become excluded from the rest of the peers because everybody's obsessed with it. This is an Irish film, by the way, and amazing, beautiful place and very interesting accents. I always find it very interesting, even though we speak the same language, we do so with different accents, and it's just so interesting, like from different parts of the world. Anyway, he gets there, and not long after, he realizes that he's going to be rooming with Conor right here. Conor is a star. He's a rugby player. He's recognized and feared because he's pretty good at fighting. It's not something that they emphasize on very much, but he beat a kid up. So the reason why he's in that school in the first place, because he got transferred. He got expelled from his other school for beating people up, and I'll get into why later. So at first he puts like furniture in the middle of the room to divide his space from Conor's space, because he just assumes that because he is a rugby player that they're not going to get along. And Ned has like very particular taste. For example, he hangs like posters of Dita Von Teese, Marilyn Manson's ex-wife, and stuff like that. So it doesn't really fit in with what everybody else is doing. And when his peers find out, they keep bullying him. They're like, "Oh, I can't believe you're gonna room with him," because people at school don't want to be roommates with him for that reason, because they think that he's gay. They just think that he's different, etc. But slowly, as the movie progresses, they develop a friendship because they have a lot of things in common, music especially. They like the same songs, and for very good reasons. And at first, Ned is not buying it. He's like, why are you saying this to me and stuff like that, when he compliments his taste in music. But later they, like I said, they develop this beautiful and real friendship. And there's an amazing teacher, Mr. Sherry. See if I could find a picture of him. This is Mr. Sherry, and this is Pascal, the coach. Those are another pair of significant characters in the movie. This is an English teacher, Mr. Sherry. He's a very devoted teacher, and he always encourages his students to use their own voice. He assigns everyone in the class, he assigns an essay. And what Ned used to do with all his English teachers is just write the lyrics to songs that he felt the teachers would have no idea what, about the song. And he does so. And Mr. Sherry realizes that, so he asks him to go to the front of the class and read it out loud while he plays the song that he wrote on the essay. So they go in sync, and everybody laughs at him, and they start making weird sounds. And obviously Mr. Sherry was like, "Why are you guys laughing? Why are you guys making a mockery out of this? What makes you think that this isn't for you? Never use a borrowed voice, because if you're busy being somebody else, then who's going to be you?" And another famous phrase by Mr. Sherry, he's amazing, is reveal yourself, reveal to me who you are if you dare, or something like that. It's really, really amazing. Anyway, on that note, Mr. Sherry talks to Ned and Conor because he overhears them playing or practicing. He's like, you guys should join the talent show, and I think it's gonna be held at an all-girls school. So obviously they're a little bit like, I don't know, but eventually they agree to do that, and they get to know each other even more. They practice a song that's amazing. I think it's by I forgot the name of the band, but it's an amazing song. But Mr. Pascal, the coach, he realizes that something is going on, because Conor wins, I think it's the semifinals or one before the semifinals in rugby match, obviously, and his dad takes him out to celebrate to a pub, and like he buys everybody drinks, and when they come outside, the dad is like, I knew that person that you were last year, that wasn't you, and this is the real you. I'm so proud of you, son. And now I'm gonna tell you the reason why he got kicked out. He got kicked out of his other school because people were finding out that he was gay, and they were like letting him know that, so he would beat them up so they wouldn't say anything. And I guess like his family obviously knew about that, so his dad kind of ignored him. They don't go into detail about what happened exactly, but it's implied that he kind of lost a bit of contact with his father because of that. And right there his dad is like, oh well, now I like you because you are presenting yourself as the athlete, the macho man, in front of everybody else. So he ditches his dad, even though he offers to give him a ride to school, and he stops at a gay club. And coincidentally, Ned was watching a film right there, and he happens to see Conor from afar, and he was going to surprise him. And like as he narrates, the one who was surprised was him, because he gets to see him walk inside the club. And this is a very funny scene. He goes up to the bouncer, and he's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get in. That's my friend. He's like, but he's older than you are. He's like, what kind of bar is this, or the club? And the bouncer's like, a club for adults? He's like, what kind of adults? Gay adults. The accent just makes it that much funnier. He's like, oh yeah, of course. Yeah, my friend will be right out. And he waits for like a minute or two. He's like, that's when he realizes that Conor is gay and he's not gonna come out. So out of the club, or out of anything really. So he goes back, and while at the club inside, Conor now sees Mr. Sherry with his boyfriend, and they catch sight of each other. Gosh dang it, like you could see it in their faces. So they take the train back home, and Mr. Sherry is kind of drunk. He goes up to Conor. He's like, hey Conor, so yeah, I'm gonna ask for a little bit of prudence on this subject, because he's my friend, but he's very affectionate because he's from somewhere else. I don't know if he said Argentinian or something. So he's all over you, but yeah, nothing went on. So just please keep it to yourself. Conor was like, oh sure, for sure. But when he's going back, like I was saying before all of this, the coach sees him walking back with him, drunk. So he goes over to the principal's office, and by the way, the principal, fun fact, is played by Cersei's father in Game of Thrones. And he's trying to tell the principal or headmaster, it's like, I saw Conor walking back with Mr. Sherry, and Mr. Sherry seems very suspect. He does this, I mean, you know how impressionable teens are, and people like him hanging out with young kids, it's not cool, he says to him, but he doesn't really say it in a clear way. So the principal's like, what are you implying, Pascal? Like, what do you want me to do? And he's like, it's just like not okay. So he's like, if you don't have any evidence of what you're saying, if like you can't just go on accusing people of something without having facts and stuff. He's like, he's just like you. He's like, it's not just like me. So because the principal doesn't pay any attention to him and does not like initiate anything, he goes over to this guy named Weasel. Well, they call him Weasel. Let me see if I could find him. Oh, he's like really, really tiny right there. I don't think you could see him. But anyway, he's one of the classmates, like one of the leaders in the rugby team. And first, let me tell you a little backstory on him. His father passed away, and his last wish was for his son to win the finals for his school. So he has it just ingrained in his heart that he has to win. And the coach is nervous because his whole life, it's even like they mentioned how it's rumored that his wife left him because he was so obsessed with rugby. He wants to win as well. So he tells this kid that Conor's spending a lot of time with Ned and that he's being distracted. He's not kicking as well as he used to, so tell him something. He's like, I guess he tells him a little bit about his background, Conor's background, so that he could investigate. And then Weasel goes and asks his cousin, who tells him obviously why Conor got kicked out. So he catches up to Conor in the showers and he's like, hey, you got a minute? I've seen you spending a lot of time with Ned and like missing out on good practice, like, just focus on something else. So Conor's like, what are you saying, Weasel? He's like, hey, if you focus on this and if you help us win, then your rumors from the old score is just going to be old rumors. But if you don't, and then I'm just going to have to tell everybody that about you. So he threatens him, blackmails him in a way, and Conor has no choice but to start ditching practices with Ned and starts spending more time with the players and less time with Ned, even though he likes what he was doing and what he was preparing for the talent show, so much that he ditches Ned completely on the day of the talent show. He goes there and it's obviously very embarrassing because he's not a very good singer or a very good guitar player, and everybody's like humiliating him. So he goes over to find Conor, who has now won a game and is celebrating with all the other team players. They like make a fire and everything, and Ned tells him, hey, I'm looking for my friend. And he's like, Weasel's like, he's not your friend, he only like hangs out with you because you're his roommate, but he doesn't like you. And he goes over to Conor, am I wrong? And I think he loves you, but I'm telling you that you're not that. I'm telling him that you're not that way inclined, but maybe I'm wrong, Conor. Am I? And Conor goes over, he's like, go to the fucking dorm, man. And he's like, tell him, Conor. And what he meant, as he narrates himself, he meant for Conor to let them know that he was also his friend, but maybe Conor took it that he was saying that he was gay, so he pushes him and then he calls him a mean word, and Ned leaves completely embarrassed. And then there's an assembly because rugby news in that school have such an importance that they could interrupt anything. Like, you could be teaching academic courses, and if there's an announcement for rugby related, you suspend everything, you stop everything, you go ahead to the auditorium, and they head on over. They start chanting their little team song, and Ned is not participating. So this guy yells at him with a speaker, I forgot what that thing is called. And he's like, sing it, say it. And Ned is not saying anything, so he pushes him, takes the thing away, goes up to the let's say, well, he goes up there in front of everybody and tells him, you want to know who's gay? Conor's gay. And everybody's like shocked completely because it's so out of character for him and something so unexpected to say about Conor. But he was just over it. That was the biggest mistake of Ned's life, and he admits to it. It was a mistake, but it was in a moment of rage when he wasn't thinking things through. He was not present the way that he would be if his emotions were getting in the way. But that's just how things are sometimes. He was not a cool friend, but he felt like he could he was getting like shitted on for something that, the movie never really tells you. Like, he never says if he's gay or not, but Conor is for sure, and like he's getting celebrated because he's an athlete, which he found unfair, and whatever, at the heat of the moment things happen. That same night, you see Conor talking to Mr. Sherry about that, because obviously he knows that Mr. Sherry is also gay, and Mr. Sherry tells him to focus on rugby and that it will get better. And Conor's like, why? I'm using a borrowed voice, I'm sorry. And you just told us to not do that. Like, when am I going to be myself? And Mr. Shea is like, you know what, it's difficult, but you can't be everything at once, Connor. It just doesn't work that way, but it will get better. And Connor doesn't agree. He's tells him, why would I believe you? Like, you're older and you say that it gets better, but it hasn't gotten better for you because you keep it a secret as well up to this day. Then the next morning, Connor is nowhere to be found, and it's the day of the finals. Obviously, the coach is throwing a fit. Everybody is nervous, anxious. No one knows where he's at. And that same night, Ned had to spend the night in the in the nurse's office because of what he did to Connor in front of the whole school. His parents come to pick him up, and they're driving him back, and he's telling them, you know, what I did was wrong. I admit it, I accept it, but please, I have to do something. It's very important, because he realizes that Connor's missing, and he knows where he's at, because Connor kept a picture of a boat that his father owned that's in the dock, and they talk a little bit about that, so he knows that that boat is still there, and he wants to go and get Connor to come play at the game. It's very important. But they don't let him, and even though they don't let him, he waits till the car stops and he escapes. He goes back and finds the eloped Connor inside of that same boat that he used to spend with it quality time with his father in. And he's like, what do you want, man? He's like, okay, like, you have to go play, Connor. Like, I'm sorry for what I did. I know it was messed up, but they're waiting for you. They need you. He's like, you said this wasn't even your team, and I don't want to play for the coach. I don't want to play for them, for Weasel. And he tells him, you don't have to play for them. Like, I felt like it wasn't my team, but I was wrong. You don't have to do things for other people, and you don't have to decide. And this is a very important life lesson. Oftentimes people think that if they do something along this path, then they have to completely forget about everything else, and you don't. You could be many things at once. We're multidimensional humans. Anyway, I'll get more into my opinion later on. So they rush back and they make it. I think the first game had already ended. They're on the break, waiting to get back for the second last game, and the coach is like, oh, so we heard about you, you know, so you can't be in the team. He's like, what? Since when? Like, I'm here right now. Let's go. I'm sorry that I was late. And the coach is like, no, because, like, insinuating that because of his sexual orientation that he's no longer welcomed in the team because everybody heard it. Obviously, he's very emotional that Connor would leave during a time like this. But all of his teammates start going over to his side, and the coach is like throwing a fit. He's raging. He's telling them, hey, if you leave to his side, then you're out of the team, and I could play for all of you guys. I can do that. Don't try me. But they all leave. I think every single team member switches over from the coach's side to Connor's side, except for Weasel. He's just like, well, what could we do? So they play, and he does miss like a couple of kicks, but near the end, he makes a final one that garners the victory, and everyone is really happy. Ned is there to support him, and the movie ends with Ned reading an essay that he wrote about his whole experience with Connor and everyone at the school. So it's really nice. I have to mention before I forget, that's it for the plot. The movie has an amazing soundtrack. The soundtrack is unbelievably amazing. I go to Fullerton, a store called Five, mentioned it before, to buy my DVDs. Not all of them, but some of them. And it's such a fun time there. And the ride there, I listened to the soundtrack for this movie. And like, I'm imagining it, I'm already like driving, like the sun peeking through the windows, the breeze. California's like, you get everything inside of your body, and like the music is just so fitting. If you knew the songs, like, I should have memorized the names of the songs and like the artists, but I didn't. I'm sorry, but if you look it up, you'll realize. First watch the movie and then listen to the music. I had the time of my life. I think some of my favorite memories in my entire lifetime is of me heading over to Phi, driving my little car and listening to the soundtrack of this movie. And I also did that because I worked at a haunt. It's obviously season on Halloween, and I would also listen to this because it's also in Fullerton, and it just brings back a lot of amazing memories. It's like there are no other songs left in the world that could have possibly made it into this film. No substitutions for the ones that were selected. This film has all the right songs at all the right moments. I wish this were live so we could sing some of them if you also knew them. Like they have the one that they're singing at the competition, So Beautiful. It goes something like, something's going on, change is taking place. Da, 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 da. They have another one that goes, how does it go? Won't you let me take you home from school? Won't you let me meet you at the pool? Na-na. It's beautiful. Please look it up because it's amazing and it's worth your time. The movie, even though it's an Irish film, I could identify with it so very much, and it brings me back literally to my high school days, even though my high school days were not very good. But this movie like kind of puts me in where he's at. And even though Ned's story was also kind of rough at the beginning, it warmed up with the arrival of Conor and the development of their friendship, which is something that I get so motivated by. I've watched this movie like, I don't know, 20 times, and I don't think I'll ever get tired of watching it over and over and over because it's just timeless. It's amazing. The writing, the directing, I cannot believe it. It has its funny moments. It's interesting. I really don't think that they could have done other things. I remember the reason why I bought this movie. I was searching up Handsome Devil by the Smiths, and I came across this on YouTube. And I was like, that's interesting. And I remember that it was even before the DVD was released. And when it was released, I marked the date down, I bought it, and then I watched it, years ago. I mean, not so long ago, but it was years ago. And I remember the first time I watched it was the first day before the first night before my work as a baker. And I used to work the graveyard shift. So that was interesting. Then from then on, my life changed completely, and I think that this film just accompanied me along the way. But yeah, it touches on this very heavy subject that if you're straight, then you're like this, and then if you're gay, you're like that. It's kind of crazy, and especially nowadays where people walk around like brands. Like, sometimes I have a lot of conflicting feelings about this topic in particular because I feel like I don't feel like I know that I don't want to sell out. I don't want to do things that I don't feel and that I'm not having fun doing just so I could get more views or so I could get more followers or whatever. It's not my intention. I try to keep it as honest as possible. What you see here, this is me anywhere else, with my mom, with my grandpa, with my brother. I'm the same everywhere, and I don't ever want to be a brand and be put into this sphere, this idea of like, this is what you have to be now. For example, even watching my reviews, you could see that my tastes vary. And there's like this whole entire collection of movies that are completely different genres. And that's the type of person that I am outside of movies as well. Like, I'm interested in many different things that don't always fit my labels. But I can't go, I can't live my life based on labels and what I'm supposed to be doing, because I fall into that category. We're humans, like I said earlier. We're multi-dimensional, and I really encourage people to follow their dreams and to be honest with themselves. You're not a brand, no matter how many influencers come about and like sell their products and everything. You could sell, like, it's nothing wrong with that, but you're a human and then you have a brand, but you're not a brand. And this film does a very good job at that. Conor feels very restricted, and he thinks that he has to choose something, and you don't have to choose. You could be happy doing both, and you could be friends with the jock types, and you could be friends with the shy, weird type, and it's cool, it's fine, like, whatever. But yeah, this movie, like, as you can see, it's amazing. It's one of my favorite films. At the beginning, I felt like it was good, and then I rewatched it, and as you can see, the more times I rewatched it, I was like, the first review didn't do it justice, let me try it again. And here I am. I give this film a rating of 10 out of 10. My personal opinion, it's just amazing. And I think I covered everything. Check out the soundtrack. Like I said, it's amazing. You have no idea. I can't tell you. You have to listen to it. It's great. Watch the movie as well if you're into this type of films within the genre. It's a must not miss film. Thank you for watching.